朋友们，大家好！现在我们讲新概念第四册的第15课啊。我先把课文念一下啊。Banks and their customers. When anyone opens a current account at a bank, he is lending the bank money, repayment of which he may demand at any time, either in cash or by drawing a check in favor of another person. Primarily, the banker-customer relationship is that of a debtor and a creditor. Who is which depending on whether the customer's account is in credit or is overdrawn. But in addition to that basically simple concept, the bank and its customer owe a large number of obligations to one another. Many of these obligations can give rise to problems and complications. But a bank customer, unlike, say, a buyer of goods, cannot complain that the law is loaded against him. The bank must obey its customers' instructions and not those of anyone else. When, for example, a customer first opens an account, he instructs the bank to debit his account only in respect of checks drawn by himself. He gives the bank specimens of his signature, and there's a very firm rule that the bank has no right or authority to pay out a customer's money on a check on which its customer's signature has been forged. It makes no difference that the forgery may have been a very skillful one. The bank must recognize its customer's signature. For this reason, there's no risk to the customer in the practice adopted by banks of printing the customer's name on his checks. If this facilitates a forgery, it is the bank which will lose, not the customer. 好，那么我们来看这个第一句啊。When anyone opens a current account at a bank, he is lending the bank money, repayment of which he may demand at any time, either in cash or 那么这一句比较长一句啊，比较长一点啊。首先上来的是一个状语从句，对不对 ？When anyone opens a current account at a bank， 这个时间状语从句。然后我们看这个主句啊 ，he is lending the bank money 啊。那么这个是主句，那么后面这个 repayment of which he may demand at any time, either in cash or by drawing check in for 好，那么这一句啊，这句是一个定语从句啊。那么这里呢，这个 which 指什么？指这个 money 啊 ，repayment of the money 啊，就是说，这个 which 啊。这个呢是一个非限定的定语从句，对不对？那么这个 which 是代表这个 money repayment of money he may demand at any time。那么大家注意啊，这个词组啊，这个就有关系代词，含有关系代词的这个词组啊，是这个定语从句的宾语啊。he may demand a repayment of which 啊 at any time。然后这里后面 either in cash or join 呢？这个是一个，这是一个介词词组和一个两个介词词组的那个并联啊。第一个介词是说 either in cash， 对不对 ？or by join， 这两个是介词词组的并联啊。那么这个里面呢有一个现在分词短语做这个介词的宾语的，对吧？啊。那么后面来看 ，primarily the bank-customer relation is that of debtor and customer, who is which depending on whether 啊，那么这个啊，这个主句呢是 primary the bank relation is that of debtor 啊，这个是简单句。那么后面呢，它是补充说明的啊 ，who is which 啊，那么好，那么这个补充说明的这个啊。那么这里面呢，首先这个 who is which 啊，这个 who is which 啊，那么这个呢是一个间接疑问句啊。那么这里面有两个疑问词的，一个 who 一个 which 啊 ，who is which。那么这个呢是 这个整个这个补充的说明了这个这个是一个现在分词的短语现在分词的短语。那么这个呢是现在分词短语的主语会认为句是一句从句是一句主语从句间接疑问句主语从句，这个主语从句做这个现在分词的主语会如何去做这个现在分词 depending 的这个现在分词的主语会如何去 depending on。好，那么后面再来看这个 whether the customer's account is in credit or is overdrawn。那么这个呢又是一个从句这里面呢等于说这个现在分词短语这个现在分词短语里面有两个从句第一个是一个主语从句，然后这个呢有一个宾语从句这个 whether 这个是宾语从句，做这个介词 on 的宾语的那么这个我们分析过的，你可以说这个宾语从句做 depending on 的那个宾语，也可以说做介词宾语我们这以前就说过这个的，这个就是看你把这个 depending on 这个是作为一个动词词组来看呢，还是你把它这个动词动词 depend， 然后呢 on 呢是作为一个介词来看，作为一个分开的跟动词分开的不这个 on， 如果你把这个 on 不看成是这个动词词组的一部分的话那么一种分析方法。另外一种分析方法你把这个 on 这个介词 on看成这个动词词组的里面的这个整个是一个动词词组这个分析我们以前说过的无所谓，两个都可以分析那么我就好，那么 But in addition to that basically simple concept, the bank entities owe a large number of to one another But in addition to that basic concept, the bank entities owe a large 这个简单句这个简单句。Many of these obligations can give rise to problems and complications, but a bank customer, unlike say a buyer, cannot complain that the law is 好。那么这个呢是两句句子的并列首先第一句到这里，这是第一句。Many of these obligations can give rise to problems and complications。这个是简单的句子这个是简单的句子这一句，然后呢，他用了一个 but， 跟后面这一句呢并列这一句并列的。那么这一句就是 a bank customer, unlike say a buyer of goods, a bank customer cannot complain that the law is loaded against her。好，那么这里呢有一个宾语从句。That the law is loaded against him 这个呢是 complain 的宾语宾语从句那么后面 the bank must obey its customers' instructions and not to those not those of anyone else 那么这一句呢，这句简单句等于说是简单句那么这第二句的有一点省略的not obey must not那 must not obey obey anyone else's instruction 这个是一个省略句 not to and not those of anyone else 那么这个是一个省略句应该说省略，它是并列的这个是省略的 not those of anyone。 好，那么后面 when for example a customer first opens he instructs the bank to debit his account only in securities drawn by himself。 好，那么这个首先上来的是一个时间状语从句，对吧？像这样的时间状语从句它是举例的When for example a customer first opens an account。 好，这个时间状语从句对不对？然后那个主句he instructs the bank to debit his account only in respect only with checks drawn by himself 那么这个一句呢也是简单句那么这里呢有一个不定式to debit his account only in respect， 这个是一个不定式对不对？ 那么这个不定式是做这个宾语啊 ，the bank 的补语的宾语补语啊 ，to debit his account only in respect of checks 啊。然后这里呢还有一个 drawn by himself， 这个是过去分词短语，修饰这个 checks 的啊，过去分词短语。好，然后 he gave the bank specimens of his signature and there's a very firm rule that the bank has no right to OK 这句子长了。那么首先呢，这个呢是两句句子的并列。第一句呢是这个句子 ，He gave the bank a specimen of his signature， 这一句句子对不对？然后呢是后面呢是一句，一直到最后。那么这两句句子呢，它用一个 and 呢把它连接起来的，对不对？并列起来的。那么我们看第一句呢是简单句，对不对？那我们看第二句 ，There's a very firm rule that 巴拉巴拉巴拉。好，那么首先来看。这里呢有一个 that 分句一直到前面后面了，对吧？这个是一个名词性的 that 引导的名词性的从句啊。这个从句呢，这个是一个同位语从句啊。什么 rule 啊？它是做 rule 的同位语的。什么 rule 啊 ？The bank has no right to authority to pay out the customer money on the check on which the company has been forged 啊。那么这个呢是一个同位语从句啊，同位语从句做什么的同位语啊？做 rule 的同位语啊，什么 rule 啊 ？The bank has no right to or authority to pay out the money on a check。好，那么这里啊 ，on which its customers has been forged。啊，那么这个呢是定语从句啊。那么这个定语从句修饰什么？修饰这个 check 的啊。这个 which 是那个指那个 check 啊，一个 check 啊。which 这个是定语从句啊。which 好。那么后面 it makes no difference that the forgery may have been a very skillful one 啊，然后我们先看这个啊，那后面冒号的后面我们算它两句句子好不好？那个因为这个冒号后面是等于是补充说明的一样的东西啊，那我们算另外一句句子啊，那么我们先看这个 it makes no difference that the forgery may have been very skillful。那么这一句这个 it， 这个 it 是一个形式主语啊。那么它的真正的主语是 that the forgery may have been a very skillful one 啊。那么这个呢是一个 that 分句，它是做真正的主语，这个是主语，做真正主语的。那么这个 that the forgery 等于说啊，这一句就是 that the forgery may have been a very skillful one makes no difference 啊，明白吗？好，那么我们看下面冒号后面的 the bank must recognize its 好，那么这句是简单句啊 ，the bank must recognize its customer's signature 好，那么后面 for this reason there's no risk to the customer in the practice adopted by clients or printing 好。那么这一句啊 ，there's impress adopted by 啊，这一句是简单句啊，同学们啊，这一句是简单句啊。那么首先呢，后面我们看这个，这里啊 ，there's no risk to the customer in the practice 啊，这里啊，那么这一句啊，这一句大家注意了，首先这个 adopted by banks 啊。这个是一个过去分词短语，对不对啊？这个过去分词短语是修饰这个 practice 的，对不对？这个 practice adopted by banks 明白吗？好，后面还有一个介词短语 of printing the customer's name on his checks， 这个是一个介词短语，这个介词短语也是修饰这个 practice 的。The practice of printing the customer's name on his checks 这两个后面两个跟的两个，一个是过去分词短语，一个是介词短语，这两个都是修饰什么？修饰这个 practice 的啊。好，那么后面 if this facilitates forgery, it is the bank which will lose another customer。好，那么首先这个是一个条件状语从句。这个是一个条件状语 ，if this facilitates forgery， 条件状语从句。那么我们看这个主句 ，it is the bank which will lose, not the customer。这个是一句强调句啊，对不对？因为英文里面有一个强调句，这个 it is 什么样 which 怎么样啊 ？It is the bank which will lose, not the customer。这个是个强调结构啊。好，那么今天这一课就讲到这里，谢谢大家，再见。